This is the clinic for the 2016-17 Texas All-State Audition Music. This is page 53, Etude number 43. This is from the Kopprasch second book of studies for horn. The first thing is identifying these keys. We have in the first section an E minor. This is a companion scale to G major. Uses the same key signature of G major, but if you go from E to E and play in the key signature of 1 sharp, you have a natural minor scale. But you notice there are a lot of accidentals through here. This is because there are various forms of your E minor scale. What I just played is the natural minor, no notes altered at all. Then there's the harmonic form, which uses a raised 7th degree or leading tone. So you would play an D sharp. This is the one probably you're most familiar with. But then there is another form too. It's called the melodic form. And this is where not only the 7th note of the scale is raised, but also the 6th. So it's like a major scale, only with a lower 3rd. But then when you come back down, you revert back to the natural minor scale. So going up, we have C sharp and D sharp, and coming down, we have D natural and C natural. It gives the composer a lot more latitude to write a melodic figure. So that's where all these accidentals are coming in, most of them. You have a few A sharps, which are just chromatic neighboring tones. Look at your articulations here. You have a lot of slur-to, tongue-to patterns, but on occasion, in measure 2 and 6, at the end of the bar, you have 3 notes that are slurred. That's important that you make sure that this happens, and also bring those notes out a little bit more. So yes, they do stick out of the texture. Practice this very slowly at the first. So forth like that. It may be, say to yourself, well, I don't need to practice that slow. Yes, you do. Great players learn that in order to get it right and to get it up to the optimum speed, you have to make sure that you're doing it correctly the first time, without question. So practice it ridiculously slow. There's no shame in that. The only thing that you'll have to remember is that gradually get it faster, and as you get it faster, if you start making mistakes, take it down a little bit. You might want to increase the successive run-throughs in four click increments, like say going from 72, say, to 76. And then if you're having difficulty with that, take it back down halfway. And if you're still having to have problems, take it down yet another click. Slow and steady. You have a lot of time to work on this, so it's better to be dead accurate. Another thing that I really recommend is that you think about the way it's constructed. This is a pickup theme. So you have all these pickups. just so you can get this. Pick up, bop, bop, beep, bop, bop, gives it sort of a perpetual motion. Then when you play with the slur, make sure the second note of the slur has a little bit more energy, and make sure that it is long. Don't clip it, but that'll give you more of a flow. Slow and steady. Then what I would do after you're getting it more and more facility, I would then just stick with slurring, gaining speed, getting finger rhythm. What will actually govern this tempo, the final tempo, is can you make it from the very beginning to the first real breathing point, which is after the third beat in measure 8. That's going to govern how fast you take this. And then taking a nice quick deep breath. Then when you get it like that, perfect with slurring, and you're letting your fingers lead your technique, and that's of vital importance in technical music. Always let the fingers lead. So now my fingers are working great. I have my wonderful airflow, and now I'm just going to put the tongue in with it. And I'm going to get my tempo here that I like. And I think of this in 2 rather than 4. It flows better. So these are half notes. Notice the differentiation of dynamic, quite important. Then in the, starting at measure 9, going through 16, it really is still pretty soft. The crescendo really doesn't say much other than just a crescendo, so just let the sound warm up a bit, getting into the downbeat of 13, and then at 16 it still is piano. Then finally there is a crescendo getting into 20, where you do finally have this nice forte, and you need to make sure that from 20 to 22 you keep that intensity alive. A lot of times I hear students, when they make that nice arrival at forte, then they're actually playing a little bit stronger going up to the A, which is advisable, but they let the sound collapse as they go down the arpeggio at 21. Keep the sound alive. Now for me, I've found that when I skip down to the octave at the end of 21, I seem to feel that for me, staying on the B flat horn on the remainder of those B naturals really helps the execution. So you have the B octave, and then I play the E on the F horn, and then the B, instead of just with the second valve, I'll actually use the B flat horn. It comes out a little cleaner than staying on the B flat rather than the F alone. It's sort of muffly. Another thing that you could do to help prepare yourself to play faster is a technique called uneven playing, or I say note crowding. Going through the first half, or you would even do it a phrase at a time, and practice this with long, short, on consecutive notes. And what we're doing is practicing really fast transitions on every note. Some of those were a little muffly. I wouldn't go any faster than that. I would go up and go back rather, and see if I can get some of these transitions a little bit more clear. Got to nudge that A a little bit more. And then I go back the other way instead and reverse it, going from a long to a short. Then what I would do, I would reverse it. Instead of going long, short, long, short, long, I would go short, long, short, long, short, long, like this. Very, very quick, and make sure that they're clean. Then when you put it together fast, you've already practiced it fast transition, but you need to make it now consistent. Very, very easily accomplished once you do those. The second section of this is now in E major. We have the parallel major. It's a change of tonality. Practice your E major scale. This particular section also has a broad 2 feel. It flows better if you think in 2 rather than 4. 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, on. It sounds very vertical or bumpy when you do that. We think dee da dee da dee da dee da. Makes it much more logical. Now let's look at that part right there. You have a couple of things to look out for. Measure 25. You have a little bit of flexible acrobatics. When you go down to the A, just give a little bit more energy and use that as a springboard to get up to the E. Keep the aperture that you're blowing the air through the same dimension. In other words, don't squeeze it like an M or pinch it, but just like you're whistling. When you whistle, you do it correctly. You look in the mirror, nothing changes. You're just doing it with directional air. So when you're playing this particular passage, make sure that you can feel the air tube that you're using and make it consistent, the same diameter all the way through on each register. Otherwise, what will happen, you'll get a pinched and nasal sound, and it will often go sharp. always want to have your best, most beautiful sound. Look at measure 29. You have a B sharp. That's the same as C natural. So you have to bring out this chromaticism, starting at 28. Make that a nice point of expression and bring out that tonality. At 34, we have some more wide leaps. Again, like what I said before, keeping all the notes in the same plane and the same tube size or width of the air. Now, another thing that you could do to help you with this is practice a gliss. So you finger your A sharp, which is the same as B flat, and hit every note between that and your F sharp. And then, of course, the F sharp, you have to finger it. Here, so there's 5. You take a rather slow tempo, and then you practice a smear over one complete beat. So you're going to have to use a little bit more energy. Then think eighth notes. Then you sustain for one and then gliss on the other. Then think about triplets. Sustain for 2 and then gliss on the last one. Then think of 16th notes. Gliss on the last 16. Then when you think about glissing right on top of the note, or when the valve changes, so when the fingers move, the valve rotates, you do that gliss immediately. Ba-ya. Real quick, right as the valve moves, and you're going to come out with a smooth slur. So time it with the finger rhythm. And I also recommend, right before you leave the lower note, use a little bit more energy on the back side of the note. So you're making sure that the upper note has more air moving out. Looking further, you have a figure at 40 that looks like an S standing on its side. This is musical shorthand, and this is an ornament. You will play the first note, then you will play the next higher note within the key signature, which would be a B natural. You return to the home note, which is the A, and then you play the next lower note within the key signature, and here that would be G sharp, and then you return to the home note, which is A. So if you look at the contour of the note, A, B, A, G sharp, A. So remind you of that little S mark. When we have a turn on a note that is 3 times the length as the resolution note, it always involves a triplet. So it'd be like 1, andly 2, and D, yada da dee, bum. And it does it again the line later at measure 48. At 42 and 43, make sure that you are using the airstream correctly, going up to the 2-octave arpeggio. If you half-valve this, this really helps you illustrate what you have to do with the air. I will do this also with technical work. That way you can practice your tongue and your delivery. This is a technique that's used a lot over in Europe, not so much here in the States, but you might want to try it. It really does the job quite nicely for you. Regarding tempo, I recommend that you keep this second section exactly the same. It will want to sag tempo a little bit. We have a tendency to feel this as a slower tempo, but there's nothing in here that indicates a change of tempo. What you might want to do is practice this second section first to try to get a tempo that you like. Then that becomes the opening. Now I didn't make it then simply because I didn't take enough air. So let's talk about taking air in. That we have various regions that we need to fill when we're playing the horn. The first region is down lower than our belt line. It's the lowest abdominal cavity area that we have. So we have to make sure that we're taking the air in and making sure that the whole circumference of our waist area is expanding. Then as we continue to take the air in, the bottom part of our rib cage expands. Again, not only out, but around and in back. And as you continue to breathe in, and if you have your back on your chair, at least for these purposes, as you continue to take that nice deep breath, you should feel your back expanding underneath your shoulder blades. And then finally, to top off the tank, the upper chest area fills and it elevates. And then as we use the air in the same way that we took it in. We use the lower air first, and then at the very end, the upper chest collapses when we're completely drained of air. So. There, I had plenty of air to do that. I was just being a little bit lazy and didn't get quite enough air in as I should. Be prepared in your auditions to start with the second section and then end with the first. You notice that at the very end it says dies al fine, or go to the sign. It wouldn't be an unusual thing for them to want to do that. Play the second section first and then going to the first. Play it both ways. But there's no way that if you start from the top of the page going down that they would ever want you to play the da capo again. They just don't have that much time. So this concludes this clinic on Etude 43 on page 59. Good luck. I've enjoyed doing this clinic for you.